at some point we are going to have to do a whole show about how good this show sounds.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Downballot. We usually do the show live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/Echoplex Media, but I got the booster shot this week, and I was in no position to do anything. Hardly even get out of bed for most of Tuesday. So we're kind of doing a makeup here. I'll probably post this Saturday instead of Wednesday. We'll be back to our usual schedule next week unless they require me to get another one of those Moderna booster shots. That being said, I think everybody should get the booster. Even just a day or two of sickness, whatever. Even if I got Omicron, it probably wouldn't have gotten me that sick, but I could have given it to somebody else. So that's how diseases spread. Anyway, I'm producer Dave, and you can find me damn near anywhere.
And hey, this is the Councilman. You can find me on Twitter at THE_Councilman. Really happy to be here. Glad to see that you're alive and well, producer Dave, after getting the vaccine, which has killed so many of our brethren. Good kudos to you. I also received the Moderna booster little less than a month ago, or a little more than a month ago now. Yeah, a little more than a month ago. Didn't feel the same after effects, so I consider myself lucky. But in and out, got it done. I recommend everyone do the same, and then get a little in and out on the way home. Always a good thing. Check out our website for more information, echoplexmedia.com. You can find out about our Twitch channel, about our Patreon, where you can give us $shill to keep this station rolling. And make sure that you download Downballot and The Local Love and all of our programming on whatever podcatcher you decide to use. And to share it with your friends. Let them know, especially if you're in the Bay Area and you're interested in the local derpiness that we bring you on a weekly basis. Please share and let folks know about it. We'd be happy to entertain more listener and more viewer and get more people up in that Twitch chat where the real action is.
And a quick note, if you're downloading this the day that it came out, listening to it the day that came out, Operation Catterday will be a Local Love makeup session. I'll have Chip DeVille up in the studio. I'll have Patty Kay up in the studio, probably have Juan Maserati up in the studio, and may have a couple other special guests popping by. So should be a bit raucous. We'll do our usual Local Love thing. Patty Kay will play a few songs. We'll rock a few local jams. Then I think me and Chip will be doing some DJing late into the night, as we usually do on Saturday. So it'll be kind of a mix between our usual Catterday show and Local Love. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Super special. I got to see Chip just recently. We actually went to a concert together. Not packed to the gills, luckily, but definitely a lot of folks around. So we played it safe. I don't think either one of us got the COVID. So again, lucky. But it was good times. It's great to see him and great to see you as always. And why don't we, without further ado, we can jump into the docket if you like.
Yeah, what do we got for leading off?
Leading off this week, we should just roll the clip.
New at 10 tonight, a San Jose woman is calling on the city for help after she fought off an attack from a homeless man who was armed with a shovel while walking the Guadalupe River Park Trail earlier this month. KTVU's Emma Goss tells us the encampment has been there for a long time, but some complain it has recently become dangerous.
So I was on that trail.
Jacqueline, who did not want to share her last name, was on her daily walk near the Taylor Street Bridge on the afternoon of January 8th when she says a man came out of his tent and attacked her.
He took the shovel that was in his hands and he started swinging at me like the shovel was a baseball bat and he was hitting me with it.
She blocked the blows to her face with her forearms before charging at the man, allowing her to escape. Her arms were bruised and bloodied.
I was screaming at the top of my lungs during this ordeal, and I look up the trail and I look down the trail and I realized like no one is coming to help me. And that's, I knew I had to help myself. I knew I had to go around this guy. I knew I had to get past him if I wanted to live.
She said San Jose police responded within minutes and arrested the man. Now she wants the city council to act before someone else gets hurt.
From my perspective, it was like a frog being boiled alive, that things have gotten so bad, but I didn't realize it because I see it every day. And I think that we've almost become immune to the homelessness problem. This didn't look like this.
Nobody wants to walk that trail. Nobody wants to go to those parks. I'm a father, I have a 6-year-old daughter. I don't want to go to San Jose parks anymore.
Scott Largent lives in an RV at a homeless encampment just up the road from Guadalupe River Park. He says he no longer feels safe there because more people have moved in and many of them are suffering from mental illness and drug addiction.
I hear the screams, I hear yelling, If it sounds bad enough that somebody is in crisis, I will call 911.
The city of San Jose began clearing out the 40-acre encampment by the San Jose airport over the summer, per Federal Aviation Administration safety requirements. Around the same time, more tents began popping up near Largent and along Jacqueline's walking route.
You're just pushing the problem down the road, and I feel like that's what the city did. They're just pushing the problem out, like at some point it could be somebody else's problem. It's not going to be somebody else's problem. We have to solve this problem now.
In San Jose, Emma Goss, KTVU Fox 2 News.
We reached out to the San Jose City Council and the mayor's office for comment, but have not heard back.
Gee, I wonder why. I wouldn't comment back. That's a trap story anyway. It's like they may be working on some sort of solution, but no matter what, you come on in that story as like the elected official, right, or anyone from the city, you're going to look like a bureaucrat. So no need to hang yourself. So what are we going to do about this problem, Producer Dave, of the homeless?
I don't know. That
attacking
lady
people with
sounds like a
shovels.
badass. We should just send her out there to do security, honestly. That part where
Seriously.
she's like, oh, well, I just charged him actually.
Seriously. I mean, because we're dealing with two separate, we're dealing with not separate things. I mean, they're separate but connected, obviously, right? This is not, she didn't get attacked by a guy with a shovel because he's homeless, right? She got attacked by a guy with a shovel because he probably has a mental instability, which more likely was caused by being homeless, or was, one of the causes of him being on the street. But more than likely, as we've talked about, right, a result of being on the street. And, at the end of the day, she was invading his space. So maybe he's just defending his turf, right? So I can't really blame either of them necessarily. It is a bad situation, and that's sort of where we're at right now, where we are kind of moving things around on a checkerboard, but we're not really addressing the underlying problem, and trying to get some strategic solutions for how to address it in a more comprehensive way.
When I worked over kind of near 880 in Brokaw, I rode that trail home to the west side, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 times a week. Riding to work, well, I would usually just take the train to work and then ride home because it was like cool out, nice to ride. There was a difference definitely between the Guadalupe Trail and the Los Gatos Creek Trail, like a big difference. Not only like that there was homeless encampments, but that the Guadalupe Trail also, just as a sort of like a public space, didn't seem as well maintained, regardless of whether or not there were encampments. And I mean, I guess that's all I have to say. I don't know. I never felt unsafe riding home late at night, but also I'm like not a small person, and I was on a bicycle and going at a good clip. So.
Well, I mean, there's other issues happening here where there's apparently like cars illegally, coming onto the trail, right?
That would have scared the shit out of me.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of issues here, and then as a city, it's like they're trying to take whatever you want to call it, humane approach, right? But there's at some point, fences are going to be involved. At some point, you're going to have to move folks around, right? And either move them to a different location or figure out a way to create some sort of buffer area, because they're not going. They have nowhere to go, right? Unless we give them a place to go, we as a society. So it's just this is what you're going to have to deal with folks. This many folks living outside, is that you're going to have incidents like this come up. And the thing about this is that it's one of those things where it gets on the news, right? Because this lady got attacked, right? And she's pissed about it, and she's pissed at the city for not doing anything, and it got on the news. It's not as though that is a going thing that happens like constantly, right? This is not happening on a nightly basis. For the most part, we're just dealing with a problem. If the problem is the system, and the people themselves, the unhoused folks, are not the problem necessarily. They've been affected by the problem. So we need to do more to address the problem, and not necessarily put it on the people.
Oh, and to clarify what I said a few minutes ago about being afraid if I saw a ar on the trail, I would be afraid that it was a fucking cop.
Well, and that's what they're asking. Like, and that's the funny thing. If from the public service perspective, right, from the city's perspective, they hear from folks, advocates who are like, there are we need to do more to help these folks, right? We need to take a more hands-off approach and be more proactive with providing services to them, right, and not sweeping camps, and right, and being more humane. And then you've got it from the entire opposite end of the spectrum of, I want to ride my bike on, not you, right, but like the your pastoral neighborhood family, right? We want to ride our bike with our children down the trail, and there's homeless people, or there's a car, right? So then you have to send in the police and police cars.
A car on the trail. A car on the trail is absolutely something the police should deal with.
Yeah, exactly right.
They need to be like, get your car off the trail.
You would think. Hearing about it, it's like they don't do anything sometimes. But what it is? A lot of times, it's like jurisdictional authority, right? And they just it's like passing the buck around, right? Oh, well, it's the water district's responsibility because they control the creeks. Oh no, it's the River Park Conservancy because they're the nonprofit that manages the Guadalupe River Park. Oh no, it's this it's the PD's responsibility. because it's illegal activity. So yeah, the buck gets passed around, I think, a lot. And at the end of the day, if things get done, they take a while, and sometimes people get hurt in the meantime. Anyway.
I've said this a lot of times, but government housing projects get a bad rap because of what happened in the East Coast, where the government's put up housing projects and then didn't maintain them.
Mm-hmm.
And so any discussion at all of like housing projects, people just are like, "Oh, you mean like The Wire?" And
Yeah.
you're like, "Well, not really. It doesn't have to be that way." That was a commentary on that the housing projects were very poorly maintained, and then people didn't care about their community because nobody was maintaining their fucking housing project.
Yeah, it's the conversation is tainted by the past experiences, right? And there have been some bad attempts here locally that are still challenges, right? But a lot of times it's management, not necessarily the quality of the product. So, but management after the fact and management of the population. So, yeah, we can and should do more, and should be doing more, and should be taking a much more aggressive tack. And I just don't understand why there isn't political will to do it at this point, because it's right in front of everyone's face now. It's not nothing you can push aside anymore. It's right there. So if anything, you're seeing you're seeing movement on a lot of issues that you may not have seen before, primarily because there's just no way around it anymore. And politicians are hearing it from both sides now, right? As opposed to just they can offend one side or the other, but now if they're hearing it from both sides that it's an issue they have to deal with, then there will be blood. There will be policy.
I just don't understand, like, all these people that are like making the world a better place with a blender. Like, where the fuck is that guy going? Where the fuck is that rich guy that, like, and it's always some weird white guy who wants to like reinvent the blender, right? And make it a tech product.
The ninja bullet.
Right.
It pulverizes the seeds.
But where's the guy like making the world a better place through public housing? Here's our private public partnership. I've got some venture capital behind this. Like, where's that?
It's there. Those things do. I don't want to make like those things don't exist. They're just few and far between, right? And there's not enough to create the kind of the volume that we need to create, right? There are absolutely like nonprofit affordable housing developers out there that the city works with. I could rattle off a few, but don't need to name check them. That they exist. It's just that there's not enough, and there's not enough money put in on the government from the government side, right? To help to subsidize it and make it pencil out for them, right? Because they're nonprofits, right? It's there. It exists. The opportunity exists.
With a stroke of a pen, fucking Teal Capital could put up a housing project.
Fucking A. Yes. And so could
Peter Thiel's a monster, so.
Right. Well, so could Google and Apple and all these guys. And I'm not to give them any credit. I mean, they've thrown a collective, like tech companies locally have thrown like a collective $1 billion, I think, at this problem in the past couple of years, or at least pledged that much. But it's going to take a lot more than that. And they know it, and they make a lot more than that. I mean, shit, what's his name? Bezos's, personal fortune goes up, $1 billion every time he farts. So, and I hear he farts a lot. So it would not take a whole lot. And you're always in a capitalist society, you're always going to have people living on the streets, period. That's just how it is. If you want to be capitalists, that's what you have to live with. You have to live with people in mansions and people living on the street. It's the number of people, and it's the gap between the two, and it's the curve, the bell curve that we're dealing with, right? That we have to really address. The closer that gap becomes, the shorter the bell curve, the less people at the extremes. That's what we should be aiming for. But we're not even close to coming at it from that angle, right? Now we're just putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds.
I had a friend, I was much younger, and he lived in public housing in Berkeley. It was a co-op, and it was pretty fucking cool, actually.
There's some pretty nice low income or public permanent supportive housing I've toured, actually. It's really quality construction. It's, I would pay to live there myself. Look like a good apartment. So yeah, there are opportunities out there. It just takes the freaking political will and the investment to make it happen.
Yeah, like I remember,
vote for good people. Elections matter. Vote for good people.
I remember going there for like parties and shit. Like they had like big, like almost like a ballroom downstairs. It's more like a warehouse, right? But it was like they had like an entertainment room. Like there were bands playing. It was an old fucking like concrete building, so the bands playing didn't really disturb the people upstairs. And it was such a cool place, but it was a very Berkeley thing, right?
Right.
Very Berkeley.
Right.
They wouldn't stand for that shit here in San Jose.
Maybe we'll make it happen. It's a generational thing. The worm will turn. It's just a slow go. It's all those olds I was on that Zoom with earlier today. The Zoomer boomers.
This is Zoomer boomers.
Boomer zoomers. All right. Well, that was leading off. As always, we like to do a nice little deep dive into the goings on of the day. But now, ladies and gentlemen, our favorite segment: winners and losers. And I don't really know. I think everyone loses in this situation. But we're gonna back to Mayor London Breed in San Francisco and her quest to create more of a police state.
San Francisco Mayor London Breed, she wants to crack down on crime, and today she's actually introducing a new plan to boost surveillance big time.
The plan would expand situations where police can use that real-time surveillance. Today in the Bay, Sierra Johnson live this morning. Sounds like a question of safety versus privacy.
Good morning. Yeah, that's exactly right. The ordinance would allow cameras to be monitored live in two particular types of situations. Currently, there are some restrictions on when San Francisco police are allowed to monitor those cameras. So take a look at your screen. The first situation is in critical events. That includes mass assaults using firearms, vehicles, or other dangerous weapons, actual or suspected terrorist attacks, hostage and kidnapping incidents, arson, organized theft or burglary, looting, or rioting. The next category, public safety crisis areas. Those are areas in the city of repeated or sustained high levels of criminal activity or open air drug markets where public drug sales inhibit public access to community amenities like transit, parks, as well as playgrounds. This also includes areas where there have been documented increase of violent crimes over a period of 14 days. Now, this new legislation would be an amendment to the existing surveillance technology ordinance that was created back in 2019, and it puts limits on when and why those cameras could be utilized. So Mayor London Breed will introduce that today to the Board of Supervisors. The supervisors can't decide. That will then be given to the public, the voters, to decide. We're live in San Francisco. Sierra Johnson for Today in the Bay.
That's an interesting one. They have to explain to me what the angle is where the voters get to decide. This is a charter amendment. That's interesting.
So on that list, the first two seemed reasonable. Like they included things like organized crime, doing a like a burgling a neighborhood. Okay, yeah, check out the cameras. It's bad.
Hostage situation, terrorist situation. Right.
But then riots. Well, and then the rest of it. It's like crime increase over 14 days. What does that mean?
Right, exactly. It's all in the devil is in the proverbial details, right? It's all about who defines what a crime increase is, who defines what a riot is, right? San Jose had some very interesting definitions of what a riot was around the time of the George Floyd protests, right? I would be very interested in seeing who's determining what those definitions are.
And the other thing, say you have to determine that in real time. Well, how do you do that? Like eventually somebody makes the decision, and if it's the cops making the decision, everything's a riot. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Unless there is a handbook, unless there's it's like a little laminated card even, like, oh, let's see, there were 15 hostages. Well, we can't do it then. Oh, 16 hostages? Yes, we can do it. I say to be some sort of empirical.
I say, for sure there's fucking one hostage in a standard that somewhere you should be able to turn on them cameras and try to figure out who the fuck's going in and out of that building where the hostages are.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My bad example. But absolutely bad example. But there needs to be some sort of empirical standard that they use. Otherwise, you're right. You have one cop flying around doing one thing and one cop flying around doing another thing, and there's really no, if there's no standard, then who knows what's possible or where this goes. So
also, I mean,
always in the details.
If you want footage from the ground of a protest, all you got to do is turn on Facebook. People are stupid and be pointing their phone in the protesters' faces like an idiot.
Yeah, Insta Live, man, that's where to go. We've pulled enough of those, the few and far between rallies and riots that, or not riots, but the few and far between marches and rallies that happen in San Jose. We've seen enough of those Instagram lives. Oh, I know that person. I know you. Oh, look, we got the whole background here. This is great. So yeah, watch out. Coming to a hood near you in San Francisco, probably the Tenderloin. More surveillance, more privacy restrictions. But in the name of combating crimes, just what kind of crimes and who defines the crimes. Anyway, in other news in San Francisco, speaking of crimes, someone's
this
going
next
around.
Story is like it's out of like the 1 a.m. fucking part of any random night here on the fucking show. Honestly,
yeah, no, this is a very Sunday night show kind of a clip. But apparently, someone's been going around spreading some nasty flyers in all the corners of your town in San Francisco.
Scary to think that it's never just about flyers or a piece of paper. It's about intimidation.
Anti-Semitic flyers found in several San Francisco neighborhoods and in other states. What we know about the group behind it. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. You're watching ABC 7 News.
Okay, this is a story where they were like, okay, so producer Dave from Echoplex Media gave us the lowdown. He even knows the YouTube channel that they found all this information on. For the record, producer Dave's YouTube channel was removed for making fun of this.
6 live here on ABC 7, Hulu Live, and wherever you stream. This is one of dozens of offensive anti-Semitic flyers that were found in San Francisco over the weekend.
ABC 7 News anchor Liz Kreutz tells us the flyers appear to be identical to flyers found in several other cities across the country and come amid a nationwide rise in anti-Semitic incidents.
So they're saying it's satanic, but they have the fucking star the wrong way. Right. This is to imply Satanism, but they don't even know which way the fucking star goes. If you're supposed to be Satan, that star is supposed to be upside down.
Unless this is some sort of alternative Jewish star that we don't know about.
There were quite a few just littered throughout the sidewalk.
In San Francisco's Pacific Heights, residents are dismayed and on edge after finding disturbing anti-Semitic flyers placed all around their neighborhood.
It was a small plastic sandwich baggie weighted down with some rice, and it had a flyer that said the entire COVID agenda is Jewish.
Aurora, who is Jewish and asked we not share her last name, noticed the offensive flyers while on a walk Sunday morning. She picked up several scattered along Pacific Avenue near Baker Street. Others reported seeing them outside homes on Union Street.
These flyers are placed at a time when there's already unrest in Jewish communities following that recent hostage situation at a synagogue in Texas and an overall rise in anti-Semitism.
Nationally, ADL reported over 2,000 anti-Semitic incidents in 2020. That is the third highest tally that we've recorded since we have tracked it in 1979.
Teresa Drenick is the deputy regional director with the Anti-Defamation League, which tracks these incidents. She said in addition to San Francisco, over the weekend the flyers were also reported in Chico and in several other states, including Texas, Colorado, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Florida. The Miami Beach mayor said the police there are actively investigating.
It is important to call out anti-Semitism when we see it.
The ADL says they are aware of the group behind these flyers. They say it's a loosely organized extremist group that espouses vitriolic anti-Semitism and white supremacist themes online. The leader is based in Sonoma County. The ADL asks anyone who finds flyers from this group to report it.
We want to make sure that law enforcement investigates and gets to the bottom of exactly what was going on.
The fact of the matter is that, whether it's coming from outside or from within our city, Jewish people here are still being intimidated and made to feel unwelcome in their own neighborhoods.
In San Francisco, Liz Kreutz, ABC 7 News.
So I'm around 70% sure that the group distributing this is a group called Atomwaffen. They're a white supremacist group. This sounds like their playbook.
Do you know what that means? It's German, right?
Yeah, I don't. No. I just know that they have
fuck your Yankee blue jeans.
They have previously published hit lists of anything from anti-racist college professors to Jewish people in the media, and this sounds like it's right out of their playbook. They're fairly well organized. They are loose and distributed. It could be another group. I could be wrong, but it sounds like them.
Yeah, it just seems like any scourge on humanity, seems like an opportunity for haters to go after those who they hate, and oftentimes it is our Jewish friends. So, let's figure out who did this and give them a good stomping. But I do love the meticulousness of the putting the flyer in the bag with the rice, so it's weighed down. It's not going to fly away, right? So, but shame.
They also
Chico too.
Well, the person being from Sonoma County sort of calls back to that pipe bomb, our pipe bomb friend at the auto shop.
Oh yes, our Democratic Party pipe bomb friend.
That's right. I don't know if he was part of that group, but it's sort of, it's not like just because he was a 3%er that he doesn't espouse some of the same ideas that Adam Waffen might espouse. There's a lot of crossover in that stuff. I do think it's interesting. They seem shocked that it was like in a well-to-do, let's face it, like largely maybe white part of San Francisco that these flyers might go to.
Yeah, I don't know why that's particularly shocking. I mean, if they really want to disrupt things like that, they're the people that would notice, right, when they're out walking their dog or go into the local artisanal muffin shop. It's not the folks down in like Bay Point. They have other shit to worry about in their lives than whatever flyers people are just leaving around their neighborhood.
These groups are going to recruit where they feel like they might be most effective. Council,
maybe, yeah. And I also don't know the demographics of Pacific Heights if there happen to be more Jews living there.
It could be. It could also be. Yeah, it could be the other way. It could be the other way where there's like disproportion, like compared to the rest of the city for whatever reason. There's a few more Jewish people there.
They found the one young Jewish lady to speak for everyone who is Jewish, of course. But who knows if she might be the only Jew living in the neighborhood? We don't know. Well, I don't know the demographics of Pacific Heights to speak to it. But
yeah, I don't either. That could be it. I don't either. But the other thing about if they were to do that in like in the Bayview or whatever, they better hope nobody sees them.
Yeah, for sure. What are you leaving on my porch?
Right, you better. Even like in the Castro, which is like an upper class neighborhood, Castro's got a little bit of history of resisting bigotry in let's say a kinetic way. Yeah. And so they went somewhere where they weren't so concerned about being spotted too.
Right. There are folks in the Castro and in other neighborhoods that are aggressively anti-bigot.
Right. Like they were talking about the TL. You want to see the crime raise in the TL? Start trying to hand those out in the TL.
The homeless are responsible for COVID. We're coming for you, motherfucker.
No, you start handing that shit out in the Tenderloin, you're going to get got.
Yeah.
Like, there might be drug dealers there, but that drug dealer doesn't want none of that shit because they're going to sell their drugs to whoever. Drug dealers tend not to be bigots because it's bad for business.
Equal opportunity. Well, speaking of the Castro, in another part of San Francisco, apparently the Castro Theater has some new ownership and some new management. And there's some concern that this classic movie theater is going to steer maybe away from the movies. And as a former film junkie and film school snob, I'm certainly intrigued by this story. But we'll see what's going on.
One happy. KTVU talked to people who worry the theater's new management could attract a crowd that may not be welcome.
Ooh.
For nearly a century, the Castro Theater has been the iconic repertory movie house in the San Francisco neighborhood that bears its name. Another Planet Entertainment recently struck a deal to take over operations. The company is known more as a live concert promoter, which has some concern about the future of films here.
They do not have a history of film programming.
A handful of cinephiles demonstrated Sunday afternoon, urging the owners to promise they won't allow films and festivals to fade to black.
There is a threat that this might be replaced by concerts, the way it's happened in the Oakland Fox and in other theaters that get taken over.
Supporters want the continuation of inclusive cinema that reflects the neighborhood, expressing their sentiment through words both written and spoken.
I love this theater. I've been coming here for so many years, so it seems like it's the last of its kind.
While some fear the theater could transform into more of a music venue, the new operators have said publicly they intend to support films and festivals along with music, comedy, and lectures. In December, the Castro hosted the premiere of The Matrix Resurrections, attracting throngs of fans. One business that benefited welcomes changes that bring more people because of the spillover effect.
It will bring more revenue to small businesses that are suffering here in the neighborhood.
As many theaters struggle to survive financially, people recognize change is needed here for the Castro to remain financially viable. They simply hope the old and new can coexist.
The most important thing is that the theater stays alive and is part of the community.
Demonstrators say so far the owners and operators have failed to properly communicate their intentions. So they are asking for a public meeting where people can hear the plan and give feedback. Greg Liggins, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Let's just wait and see.
Yeah, for sure. Have you been to the Castro before for a film?
Yes. Dan Savage puts on the Hump Film Festival there. That's a lot of fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. It's not for
sounds like a lot of humping.
It's not for the squeamish. It is adult films, but it's not like the environment you would expect at like a porno theater. People are laughing.
There humping involved?
What?
Is there humping involved?
Yes.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's
not just on film.
It's adult films a lot. It's adult films, generally independent, creators of adult films, and people are there kind of talking about the films. It's absolutely not like a porn theater where somebody's like whacking off and shit in the theater. That's not that kind of environment.
Sure.
It's it's just tastefully done fucking pornography. Some of the porn isn't very tasteful, or maybe not by societal standards, but the environment there is very fun, very friendly, I didn't know what to expect when I went, and it was a lot of fun. There was like music and stuff. It was a big old party. We also saw was that Spike and Mike's Twisted Film Festival there one year.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We've seen who did we watch? I forget. It might have been fucking Bill Maher like a long time ago. Do a comedy thing there.
Comedy?
I've definitely been to comedy shows there, like for I've seen Michelle Cho there. Was it? I forget. Is that right? Michelle Cho.
Yeah, I think this could work for as a multi-purpose venue anyway. I think that's actually a really good model for these single screen style theaters that could do theater, film, comedy. You can do art shows, frankly. So you can do quite a few different things in music. So I would encourage owners of these spaces to really think outside the box and try to provide as much for flexibility and diversity to their community as possible.
The thing about music,
we can do it all.
The thing about music is the chairs, the mounts for the chairs, the uneven floor.
Yeah.
Like you can't really have a rock show there. It has to be like a sit down kind of concert or whatever,
Yeah, there's some conversion stuff that you would need to do, but it can be done. And I think there are venues that have done it pretty well. So we shall see. I think the Burbank here in San Jose is a good example of a place that it just got sold, I think, at auction, but it's a really nice space that could be used in a lot of different ways. So we shall see. Well, as always, it's time to get your shit together.
Oh, no, we got one more here. We got Pliny the Younger.
Oh, crap. You're right. We do have one more loser. That's right. And this is actually getting your shit together anyway. So the pandemic has had all sorts of negative impacts on us in the supply chain, and now it's really hitting us where it hurts.
Well, fans of a popular Bay Area beer that is only brewed in a certain time of the year will have to wait a bit longer before it comes out again. Russian River Brewing Company in Santa Rosa announced it is delaying the release of Pliny the Younger beer due to the Omicron surge. Thousands of people traditionally show up for the annual kickoff event, which was scheduled for February 4th, but Sonoma County is currently under a ban on large public gatherings because of the virus.
Unfortunately, Vinny and I have had to make the very difficult decision to postpone our in-person Pliny the Younger release.
The new dates will be March 25th through April 7th at both our pubs.
The brewery says 20 employees have tested positive since the holidays. Now, before the pandemic, releasing the beer generated more than $5 million to the local economy in 2020.
See what I'm saying? It's not just the best beer. It's also a huge economic generating engine. What are we going to do, Producer Dave? We have to wait another month and a half.
I'm not a fan of that style of beer, but I know a lot of people who really do enjoy it. Of the two, I actually think Pliny the Elder is a little more drinkable. But I just don't like those super hoppy beers.
I am definitely a big hoppy person, but I like both. The Elder is delicious too. So this is a sad day for me, but I can wait. First world problems under winners and losers today, ladies and gentlemen.
Also, like the pizza that guy was eating in that bar looked awful.
Yeah, looked a little like thrown together and plasticky and
little greasy and soggy and shit.
A little greasy, like the cheese wasn't quite melted, but still had like oil seeping out of it, and just like it was melted in a microwave or something. Anyway, not good. Thinking of investing, by the way, in a wood-fired pizza oven for our house for the outside at some point if we ever redo our backyard, so we can have pizza parties and you can come over for our posh artisanal cupcakes and pizza.
Fantastic.
So moving right along. After I jumped the shark earlier, getting your shit together. It always seems to be Millennium Tower, and this week is no different. So I think we're just going to have to start renaming this section of the show. But wouldn't you know it, there's more.
Raj, newly released documents tell a previously hidden story about the troubled fix of San Francisco's sinking and leaning Millennium Tower. NBC Bay Area investigative reporter Jackson Vanderbecken shows us why the documents provide some answers, but also raise a very important new one. Where is all the grout going that workers are injecting into the ground?
The project designed to stop the Millennium Tower from sinking any further involves drilling holes down to bedrock, inserting steel support piles, and sealing the holes with concrete grout. But records show that when crews installed the first pile, number 8, they had to pump in far more grout to finish the job than expected, some 14 more tons. And other piles required 10 or more tons of extra grout each to fill the holes, and there were delays of up to 4 days between drilling and grouting. The question is why? One theory is that the pressurized drilling process essentially vacuumed up too much sand and debris buried way down near bedrock. And that's a major reason the Millennium Tower suddenly started sinking and leaning faster when the fixed project began.
The ground was already highly stressed because of the 58-story building that it was supporting on piles.
Internationally recognized deep foundation expert Harry Poulos says that under the circumstances, settlement of the building may well have been inevitable.
I think any time you do excavation and delay, that leaves you open to the possibility of loss of strength and deformation. Settlement in this case of the ground.
An outside expert advising the city, Ben Turner, called the process of soil being removed during drilling unintentional mining and told city officials back in November he could not rule that out. But he now favors another theory, that all the grout is simply seeping into gaps in the soil.
We actually expect that some grout will penetrate into the formation. And so after extensive discussions with the contractor and among all the players here, we believe that is the most likely explanation.
It's more likely to be over mining.
Geotechnical engineer Bob Pike says an early analysis of the first successful test pile shows workers needed extra grout to fill the hole. And thermal data indicates all that grout may have pooled some 240 feet down, where there's a layer of sand that Pike says could easily have been sucked out or mined during the drilling process, triggering additional settlement early on.
The indicator piles should have served as a canary in the coal mine. These are all warning signs.
Warning signs, he says, engineers should have paid attention to, especially when the building started to sink and tilt more dramatically with each pile installation. Jackson Vanderbecken, NBC, Bay Area News.
And we've been breaking news stories on the Millennium Tower ever since it started leaning. Head to NBC Bay Area streaming app on Roku, Apple TV, or Amazon Fire to see our other reports, including how key records are now missing in the fix.
Yeah, there is an actual YouTube playlist just for this story on NBC's YouTube channel. It's like every day they're struggling, and they should just tear it down.
Yeah, it just seems like there's never, like, I know, like, the if it bleeds it leads thing, right? But there's just never any good news about this fucking this tower. And
no, it's not going to get. I mean, you're right. Everything we've heard about this, I don't understand how this is all less expensive than just taking it down piece by piece and rebuilding it like a Lego set.
Some of the stuff's not going to be. You're not going to be able to reuse everything, right? But,
sure.
You're going to have to do
but-
some demolition. There's going to be some
Yeah.
concrete that's going to have to be demolished and that kind of stuff. But
Right,
you
but
can
at this
recycle.
point, when-
You can recycle demolished concrete and shit. So
Yeah, you can put it into those piles that you're driving, hundreds of feet below the earth and getting into the crevices that you created by mining in the first place. So yeah, what a mess. Well, we'll keep you posted, ladies and gentlemen. Just recommend do not move into a high-rise condo plex until you've really done some serious homework. And definitely not this contractor built the damn thing. All right. Well, shall we move down ballot?
yeah, we're going to go to down ballot and recall watch.
Nice. Well, this week's sort of a mashup of those things. So stories that are sort of adjacent to recalls and efforts of that nature. But the first, as we've already covered in previous stories and previous episodes of Down Ballot, DA Chesa Boudin in San Francisco is trying to make some reform, and there's folks who don't like reform because they're used to doing things a certain way. And now, not only are they, trying to go after him with a recall effort, they're also trying to, I think, attack him through other means and trying to leverage rising, concern around hate crimes to actually, use it as a way to attack and get some bad press for the DA when it's something that not necessarily his fault.
Good afternoon. I'm Ali Rasmus.
I'm Gassia Mikaelian. New at noon, a federal lawsuit
my God, they could be
was filed
sisters.
in response to hate crimes against Asian Americans in San Francisco. The suit was filed against the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, filed by the Alliance for Asian American Justice, and a man who was allegedly attacked in 2019 with a bat by a man and his teenage son. The suit alleges the criminal justice system has often failed to treat Asian victims of crime with the dignity, respect, and equal treatment that they deserve.
By standing up for my constitutional rights, I am standing up for all AAPI hate crime victims in the city and county of San Francisco, throughout the state of California, and throughout the United States.
The DA's office has yet to respond to the allegations or the lawsuit, but it has announced the formation of a committee to address the gaps in service for elderly Asian crime victims. The DA's office says the committee will ensure that elderly AAPI crime victims and survivors have their needs met before, during, and after court proceedings. The number of hate crimes against Asian Americans in San Francisco is up significantly compared to previous years. San Francisco Mayor London Breed, the police chief Bill Scott, and other community leaders held a news conference this morning to address crime data impacting the Asian American Pacific Islander community. There were 60 hate crimes against Asian victims last year in San Francisco. That marks a 500% increase from 2020.
I am heartbroken. I'm frustrated. I'm embarrassed. I'm angry about the violence that has continued to impact many of the people who are part of our Asian community, but especially our seniors.
We saw more than a six-fold increase in Asian hate crimes in our city, in San Francisco. And we had 8 in 2019, we had 9 in 2020, and we had 60 in 2021. That is significant, that is concerning, and that is alarming.
The mayor-in-chief said a top priority this year is to have more police officers and safety ambassadors on the street to help prevent hate crimes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I'm not going to, absolutely not going to diminish the impact, the victims of these crimes at all, right? And there's a big problem, and we do have to address it. I just find it very interesting that this press conference with the mayor, who is, opposed to the DA, and supported his opponent, and the police chief. Police are very adamantly opposed to this DA because he's willing to go after police for misconduct. And then that other lawsuit all happened to come out as news stories on this, be publicized on the same day. Find that very interesting in terms of as a media professional, right? That being said, I don't want to be too skeptical. And again, it's an issue that does have to be dealt with, but it's just interesting to see the media hits that were that came out at the same day around this issue. Anyway,
So we only saw a brief like moment of the press conference, but I mean, if they didn't hit up the fact that there are popular media personalities on certain cable news channels who've been calling this shit the Wuhan flu, who've been saying that this is all due to a lab leak in Wuhan, China, that they were calling it the China virus. No, that was the president. I'm sorry. That was the president called it the China virus. Like if there was no mention of that during any of these press conferences, then I would share some of your skepticism as to at least the possibility that the reason for holding this press conference might have been a little bit of hide the ball.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. But again, you're right. I don't know that they didn't say and didn't put it back on that. And the fact that the president of the United States himself was a part of this scourge that has hit us as a society. So yeah, again, it's just one of those ones that makes me feel a little squeamish. It gives my spidey sense a little tingle as a media guy. So who knows? But you'll see more of it as that recall election gets closer. You're going to see more attempts to publicly slander the DA in ways that have nothing to do with anything he has control over.
Right. And as far as prevention of crime goes, wouldn't that fall back on the police?
Yeah, you would think, right? Or the officials and government officials and policy, right? He is there to prosecute, but at the same time, the way that you prosecute and the way that you do your job as the DA can actually, can inform both, I think criminal activity and but also the response to it and how it's policed and things like that. Like if you're a more aggressive DA on certain, or you're more aggressive at prosecuting certain crimes, you would think that would be a deterrent to doing those crimes. Anyway, that's up for debate, but you get what I'm saying. Like that's the way you can impact it. But yeah, you're right. Enforcement and that things of that nature, it's a policy thing, and then it's a police thing.
Yeah,
that's why we have the police.
I just feel like I just doubt that they mentioned that there are whole YouTube channels dedicated to calling the virus a Chinese bioweapon. You know what I'm saying? I highly doubt that came up.
No, probably not. Probably not, because we're beyond that now. We voted in Biden, so everything's fine.
Yeah. Also, she's pretty cozy with tech.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, like I said, she is actively opposed to the DA. I think she's even endorsing the recall, or she's endorsing the school board recall. But she's certainly not a fan of the DA, and the police are definitely not a fan of this current DA. So, just little natural skepticism, which we embrace here at Echoplex Media. All right. Well, speaking of other issues, our sheriff here. I don't think this freeze frame here is not exactly what the story is about. But as we've been following, Sheriff Lori Smith here in Santa Clara County is also facing not a recall necessarily, but a real serious challenge to her leadership, to the point where she's even considering now. I've heard not running for re-election this year. But let's see what the story has to say about the latest development in her corruption scandal.
More problems for longtime Santa Clara County Sheriff Lori Smith. Today, California's Attorney General opened up a civil rights investigation into the embattled sheriff. Let's bring in our senior investigator, Stephen Stock, who's broken several stories involving Sheriff Smith. Stephen, this is a big deal.
Absolutely, Raj. Today's announcement by the California Attorney General Rob Bonta follows a request from county supervisors here last summer. They asked for a civil grand jury investigation, which they got, and which resulted in 7 formal accusations issued just last month. Now, the Attorney General is opening his own civil rights investigation. Sheriff Smith has come under fire over her management of the local jails, as well as questions about whether people who gave to her political campaigns got special treatment when they applied for concealed carry weapons permits, or CCWs. Our investigation 2 years ago found those campaign donors were 14 times more likely to get a permit than those who did not give to her campaign. We also reported that the sheriff has not submitted to independent oversight at her jails, including not reporting incidents of severe beatings there. Today, the Attorney General said his office will investigate whether any state or civil rights had been violated in any of these actions.
Our investigation will seek to determine whether the sheriff's office has engaged in a pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful conduct. This investigation comes amidst deeply concerning allegations relating to conditions of confinement in the office's jail facilities, resistance to lawful oversight, and other misconduct. These concerns have been repeatedly voiced by elected leaders, media publications, community members, community organizations, and more. It is time that truth comes to light.
Bonta would not comment on any specifics regarding his investigation, but he did say his office will take its time and would like to hear from anyone who wants to give evidence or testimony. And within the past 2 hours, we got a statement from Sheriff Smith saying, quote, "I have always welcomed any external review of the sheriff's office, and we will immediately open all records. I have great confidence in the Attorney General's office, and I believe they will provide the expertise for a fair and impartial investigation." Her attorneys are currently preparing objections to the civil grand jury's accusations on similar issues. They were in court just a few days ago. Those issues, of course, were handed down in December. If any of those accusations, even one, are found to be true after a trial, the sheriff could be removed from office. We'll stay on this story.
All right. Thank you very much, Stephen.
And we will stay on it, too, here on Downballot.
Here's another case where I think like a progressive person could come in and be the sheriff, and I feel like maybe Santa Clara County might be one of the places in a position to kind of lead the way on improving and making. It's unfortunate when people have to go to jail, especially when they haven't even been convicted of a crime yet. And I think the Santa Clara County could lead the way in making these facilities more humane and treating people with a little more dignity in there, and doing things to kind of stop the factioning off of different people inside of the prisons, which is the cause of a lot of the violence.
Ironically enough, they're trying very hard to tie themselves as knots to not do that and to appease all the public safety mavens out there and their like concern about the Lululemon crimes, and balance that with what's really needed, which is more help for more people in general. Good news is there is someone running for DA, at least against the current DA, who's from that more progressive Chesapeake mode, who wants to look at more restorative justice and reform as opposed to punitive. So maybe, perhaps the current candidates for sheriff, even if Smith were to back out or to run and get beat, I just don't see any of them as being all the kind of dynamic personality it's going to take to really affect the change. A lot of them are just former deputies, or just not really saying or looking like the kind of things that the kind of folks that are really going to be able to do substantive work there. They're really just running because they don't like the sheriff. So we'll see. But I think in the DA's race, we certainly have an opportunity. We'll get to that later on as we do our down ballot research and our ballot box bingo as we get closer to the election in June.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think we could take a look at our fucking friends over in Europe, where like people go to jail there and they can't leave, but it ain't like here.
Yeah. I mean, there's jails in Germany where, you live in a communal environment, you cook together with knives, and you play together, you cook together. It's more of just it's like a dorm, pretty much. So and they treat people like humans, which, hey, imagine that. So yeah, we can do a whole fuck ton better, especially in our county, which mainly manages pretrial incarceration, right? Once someone has been convicted, they're generally transferred to a state facility, but now the state is trying to transfer back a lot of prisoners that they don't want to hold anymore. So we're having to rethink what we put people into jail for in the first place, right? And do we really need this many people in jail, or should we have more programs that allow people to be out there and being functional members of society even after they do wrongs, right? Or wrongs according to who? So yes, we need some alternatives now, but unfortunately the Board of Supervisors, we'll talk about it more next week as we can cover the stories that came out this week. The Board of Supervisors considered this even on Tuesday, and there was a whole shit show that the good wife was telling me all about. So I'll let y'all know about it next week. Speaking of which, though, so this was a preamble to that Board of Supervisors meeting. Our next clip here, this is from Twitter, from one of our local reporters. Some advocates for say no to the jail, to a new jail in Santa Clara County, right? The county is considering building a new or rebuilding the main jail in the manner of the old one. And these folks say that's not the best idea. So instead of calling it public comment, which they did, or going to knock on the door of the elected official, they decided to do what anyone would who's got a little theater background and do a comedy skit in the middle of the courtyard.
One more question, please. There's a vote coming up next week on whether to build a new jail. And what's your opinion on the matter?
Well, 500 beds should be plenty of room for the corporate crime ring. What I meant to say is 500 beds will be perfectly sufficient for one crime ring we've identified through investigations not involving license plate.
This little girl loves this.
The jail will sufficiently hold the crime for a good amount of time. Okay, next question.
Willow Glen, resident.
Yes, Willow Glen Press, yes. Thank you. Okay, we were wondering if Google was still looking for more property.
So you get the idea. Very funny sketch. If go to Twitter, I think it's Trung Nguyen from San Jose Spotlight on her Twitter feed. Or actually, I shouldn't pronoun them. I don't know. Actually, I've never met them, so they could be them. Anyway, check out their Twitter feed for more information on that sketch. And we'll have more information on what's going down with the jails in Santa Clara County on a future episode. And it'll certainly come up during the DA's race as we discuss that, and the sheriff's race, if the sheriff's race actually happens. Like we said, she might just drop out. That would be amazing. And then you'd have a real fucking shit show of people running for that job. Producer Dave, would you like to run for sheriff?
No.
No?
No.
I'm sure we could make this happen. All right, well, let me know. I know people.
So I'm actually not just kind of knee-jerk opposed to rebuilding what we have, like as far as a facility, but that would come with some caveats. That would be like more space for each person, or just upgrading the facilities, upgrading things, probably like HVAC. Probably people there might like some better air conditioning and heat, depending on the weather. I'm sure that the air conditioning and heat ain't the best. Like upgrades to the facilities that aren't just to cram more people in, but rather to, have a more, you could even do things where the place is nicer and they would say more secure, right?
Yes. In theory, that's all the baseline for what they want to do, right? All of them can be on baseline fundamental. All of the supervisors and the staff and everyone agree that, the conditions are deplorable, first of all, and need to be improved for the inmates. And secondly, a lot more attention has to be paid for who we're putting in these facilities and what kind of services they need, and making sure that the proper folks are isolated and separated from each other if they need to be, if there's history, gang violence, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot more thought and humane treatment needs to go into our jails, and that's something that they all agree on. It's just a question of who they're trying to appease and how they're trying to go about things, right? And who wants to spend the money, right? A lot of it comes down to that too. I
think if the idea is we need to be able to like put more people in here. Well, guess what? You need more square feet then, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality. Like, I'm not for throwing a bunch of people in jail, right? Like, but if we're gonna have a bunch of people in jail or whatever, then we just need more square feet. We need more square feet for things like a fucking library, like common areas where people can, I don't know, play fucking ping pong or whatever. There ain't fucking, I imagine there ain't shit to do in there. So like, I don't know. I just feel like like you had said about gang violence, there's one way in which, I guess you got to keep certain factions separated, but there's another way in which some of this money should be spent on integrating people of different races inside of the jail, because there's a lot of like race-based violence in there from people who weren't part of a fucking gang, and now they get into jail and they think they have to join like a clique or a group of people based on their race, and there needs to be like attention paid to trying to stop that, to find out like when people are coming in, like, okay, is this person set up for an integrated experience where we don't have that, where people who don't want that can go in there and not have that? And then, okay, there are people, you know, where there's rival gangs. Sure, we got to keep them away from each other. But then what do you put all the people from one gang over here in this fucking part of the facility? Okay, great. Now all the people in one gang are together. Like, is that good? Probably not. Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just more thought has to be put into it, period. Like, right, I don't think there's much thought being put into that at all, right? How best to do it or how to do it at all. So absolutely. And I also just think that there's a lot more thought needs to be put into who we're putting into jail in the first place. And if there's really a need to have all these people in a carceral facility when they're pending trial, right, when they haven't been convicted yet, and when a lot of the times the crimes are not violent, they're not, you know, we're not talking about murderer, quote unquote, putting murderers back on the street like they all, like the mayor and others try to say when they're talking about crimes. So we really could also rethink about like how many people we actually need in these facilities at any given time, and just by nature, you know, without even increasing or decreasing the footprint of the jail itself, creating more humane space, because we're just not dealing with as big of a population, right? So there's a lot of different things that they're just not thinking about. And again, it comes down to political will, right? And being able to stand up and say that maybe we don't need to put as many people in the jail, right? Maybe we don't need to have as many cops out there. Maybe we need to have a different type of cop or a different type of person out there helping to not just enforce the law, right, but also just maintain the peace, because that's also a part of their job, theoretically.
And inside the jail, too, doing things to maintain the peace, for fuck's sake.
Yes.
Like de-escalating conflict wherever you can.
And they're not trained for it. They are not at all. None of them are the guards. None of them are trained for the work that they have to do.
I imagine most of the de-escalation is done by other inmates.
More than likely, yeah. One way or the other. One way or the other, right?
Well, I mean, I imagine it must be done by it. It must be, you know, that might be, but maybe like recognizing that that's the case and finding a way to leverage the fact that some of the inmates in there might be inclined to want to de-escalate, and having programs where the people who would like to de-escalate these things can get together as inmates and talk about the community inside of the fucking prison and how to de-escalate violence and reduce violence in the prison. Be a good, you know, it's probably boring in there, so you get, you know, be a good use of time for those folks. They learn some valuable skills, maybe skills the cops don't even have. And I just feel like there's a lot that could be done, like just to improve the quality of life in there and to make it less hectic and less violent. And I think that, you know, I just imagine that that's really not a priority, even if it may be a priority for the people at the Board of Supervisors level. I guarantee it ain't a priority at the fucking administration level at the jail.
Well, they could make it that the Board of Supervisors could make it that way, but they voted against doing that. So,
shit.
So are you sure you don't want to run for sheriff? Are you positive? Because you sound like you've got the. I like all the ideas you're espousing. So,
and the things I'm saying might be pie in the sky. It's not like I'm a fuck. It's not like.
No,
not like I've
it's
spent
not,
like
though.
20 years down or whatever, and I understand
No.
the culture. You know.
No,
So,
it's realistic.
But you know,
it's all realistic stuff that we could do if we just had political will and good people like you in office, as opposed to the people we have.
well,
Like
I just
Lori
don't. I don't want that smoke. I just don't want that smoke. Right.
Someone's got to take it anyway. But we'll cover that more, and we'll get producer Dave to run one of these days. I promise everyone, listener. Speaking of a hot potato issue that we'll get to probably a little more next week, because it actually did pass and the city's getting sued. It's a whole thing. The city of San Jose and the mayor are making a big push for his congressional campaign in a few years by pushing for gun owners in San Jose to get liability insurance, and among other things.
San Jose may become the first city in the nation to require gun owners have liability insurance. And the move is just part of a landmark gun reform proposal that's up for vote today. Today in the Base, Chris Sanchez joins us with why the city is really getting into what is usually a federal matter.
Well, hi there, Laura. So when I talked to Mayor Sam Liccardo, he said that the city needs to do something because Congress has not enacted any meaningful gun reform since the 1990s. And so the city will be moving forward. And this is something that he first mentioned to me the day of the VTA mass shooting at the rail yard there. Let's take a look at some of the provisions of the ordinance. It would require gun owners to have liability insurance and also pay a $25 to $35 fee every year into a nonprofit for gun safety education and social services. The goal is to help victims of gun violence and also to reduce the cost of emergency response to gun violence, things like police response and ER visits.
To create a nonprofit that will be funded with fees from gun owners that will be entirely focused on initiatives that reduce gun violence in our community. And the best way to do that is by focusing on family members who live in households where a gun is owned. We know that's where the risk of homicide, and particularly the risk of suicide, is many times greater than for other residents.
Now, the mayor says that this is modeled loosely after what drivers are required to do in terms of insurance. The mayor says people can lower their premiums by doing things like attending safety classes, using gun safes and trigger locks and such. He also told me that he does expect the city to end up in court defending this ordinance, and gun rights advocates say he's right, that the ordinance really punishes law-abiding gun owners and they will sue.
And most importantly, they will not stop gun violence. All this legislation does is punish legal owners of firearms. Taxing a constitutional right is illegal.
I love that guy gets the same level of pub as the mayor in this story.
Gun legislation. They already banned ghost guns. They did something with straw sales as well. And they also helped to defend the assault weapons ban when that expired. All of this will go before the council for a full vote later this afternoon. We expect that there will be lengthy public comment ahead of that. In San Jose, Chris Sanchez, Today in the Bay.
Yeah, the first you got the mayor of San Jose. Not that I, love him and his bootlicking chops to death, but the mayor of San Jose, and then the executive director of the Silicon Valley Taxpayers for Government Accountability, a two-time failed city council candidate, given the same level. This is one of the issue I have with local news. Like, they're given the same level of, seriousness really, and platform in this story. Granted, the mayor's quote comes first, and it's his proposal, but still, you put them on the same level, and you're elevating the voice that is just not, frankly, I don't think worthy of being elevated. But that's sort of how the news works here. They try to be fair and balanced, quote unquote, but they end up, I think, tilting the scales to the NIMBYs and the folks that just have the loudest voice. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I was going to get obliterated in the courts.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's the lawsuit already has dropped, so it's not even getting implemented. But it got the mayor nice media hits on everything from Newsweek to he wasn't on the Today Show, but they covered it on the Today Show, LA Times, Washington Post, CNN, right? So he got what he wanted out of it. So that is what it is.
So it might. So it's gonna be in the federal courts. There's some chance maybe the Ninth Circuit won't overturn it, right? There's some chance, but that's pretty slim. Because, and I forget what the fucking decision was, but up until about like the 80s or the 90s, the courts had not interpreted the Second Amendment to just mean that like individuals could just have kind of whatever the fuck firearm they want with like little to no restriction. And I forget what decision it was. And that all changed once the court did decide, for the vast majority of the time in this country, like gun regulation was the norm. Like guns were pretty heavily regulated in this country. I don't have a strong position on guns either way. I don't care if my neighbors own guns. If they do own them, I hope they use them safely. And I hope if my next door neighbor owns a gun, it can't penetrate the wall of an apartment if they accidentally fire it.
Right. I'm pretty sure it could, but especially in your apartments, I don't know, but maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, I'm in the same boat. You want to do more power to you as long as you're being safe with anything, right? Like a gun, scissors, I don't give a shit, right? Just don't hurt other people and be safe with it. And that's all I think at the end of the day that government can and should do in terms of regulating vices and things like that. Make sure that folks aren't hurting other people or interrupting their life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? And they're doing things safely. But yeah, at the end of the day, you really can't regulate people. There's only so much the government can do anyway, and there's only so much that would be effective, right? So this is something like gun insurance is really there. It's an in-case thing, right? Like if your gun is used in a robbery or something like that, or in a homicide, then it would come into play. But as long as you're doing things properly, staying safe, paying your bills, and checking all the boxes, then it's not something that's going to impact you. But so someone could argue that a small fee or a small a small price to pay for owning the right to own the gun or the privilege of owning the gun and having that weapon that could cause harm to other people right there in your home. But one could argue the other way too. But we do have to, there are things we're required to get liability insurance for in many other arenas, where I would argue that it's a little bit extraneous to do it if you consider that it doesn't make sense to have it for a gun. So, but that's for another conversation, I think, entirely.
Yeah,
we'll get back to this story more as we go down the road, because it's going to come back. Like you said, the lawsuits are already flying.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If the insurance industry were to go to war,
show out with one last little clip.
Yeah, but real quick, if the insurance industry were to go to war with the firearms industry, I wouldn't be mad to see that at all. Uh-oh, have I lost you? I've lost you.
Not quite, but it's going in and out.
It's going in and out. All right, we'll run this last clip. This is the entire staff of Noah's Bagels quitting. This is the entire staff of the Noah's Bagels quitting live on a TikTok video.
Staff at a Vacaville bagel shop quit, and the moment has gone viral. TikTok video shows 16 employees of Noah's Bagels meeting at the store to put in their notice after they say their manager was unjustly fired. Turns out initially the manager says she was suspended, likely because of a customer complaint, but she says no one complained. When she went home, she saw her final paycheck in her bank account. The manager, along with the rest of the employees, are demanding to know why she was fired. And then in a show of solidarity, the staff quit, posting it on TikTok. The video has gotten them 3.6 million views.
We're not replaceable, we're not disposable, and you can't just fire somebody and not let them know.
That shows you how tight our bond is and how close we are together, not just as a team, but as a family.
Those are some nice employees. Noah's Bagel says it'll look into the matter as it takes treatments of the team members, quote, seriously.
That was wild.
Yeah, go on with your bad selves.
Well, yeah, get them. Worker solidarity and like union participation is generally at an all-time low in the United States. So fucking get them.
Yeah, as we all know, am I coming through okay? We may have heard about Starbucks employees unionizing lately, so that's great to hear. So maybe Noah's will be next, and maybe after that Jamba Juice, I guess, if we're going down the strip mall.
Yeah, for sure. Well, since your connection's bad, I guess I'll read us out this evening. Everybody, thanks for listening to Downballot. Everybody, thanks for listening to Downballot. Make sure you are following this podcast on your podcatcher of choice, and make sure you're following us on Twitch. We're usually live Tuesday nights, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. And remember, not all politics are local, but I mean, some of it is, and maybe you should get involved. This is Locals by Audible Smoke Signal, and we out.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next pictures of me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me. About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. Now get the fuck up on stage, man, rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink, spark it if you got it, and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside?
I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily.
We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band and enjoy that band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band.
Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yeah,
we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want to do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want to do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit